I call Poto Williams.
I am keen to talk about the Pacific aspect of this bill, Mr Chair, with specific reference to section 79AD, which will be inserted as a subsection into the primary legislation, which gives effect to the 10% increase in excise, which will be collected on tobacco, and the years subsequent to that, 10% each year over a period of 4 years, which will then provide to the government, we hear somewhere in the region of $425 million in revenues to the government. And there has been a bit of discussion already in the House about the purpose and the use of that revenue. But I want to talk specifically about the collection of $42.5 million, which will come directly out of the pockets of Pacific smokers, people from the Pacific who smoke. And what should happen to that funding, to that money? In 2004, the Quit Group, who do such things as manage the Quit line, did a study into smoking amongst Pacific people. It's not a new study, but one of the interesting facts that they found within that study was that in the preceding decade, one of the things that caused them to look at the rates of smoking amongst Pacific people was that it was becoming increasingly socially acceptable for Pacific women to smoke, where it had been in the past culturally unacceptable. It was becoming more acceptable socially for Pacific women to smoke, and in particular for young Pacific women. Now, whether that's the influence of being a New Zealand-born Pacific person, they don't extrapolate that. However, what they were saying very clearly in the study was that the rates for Pacific young women were going up. So as far as I can tell from the information that they provided, having the ability to use some or most of that $42.5 million that we will collect from Pacific smokers directed into the cause of ensuring that young Pacific women are educated about smoking and have some really good information so they can make choices for their own health. Public health information, we know it works, but it takes time, and it's important that we need to start as soon as we can on that. Mr Speaker, this bill is going through the House under urgency, so we won't have the opportunity at Select Committee to hear submissions. So this morning, when I was at the Child Poverty Action Group breakfast, the post-budget breakfast, I took the opportunity to speak to a few people that I met there. And one woman in particular who works with children with asthma and respiratory conditions said to me, when I asked her about her view on this legislation, she said, yes, if they had been given the opportunity to submit, they certainly would have. And they would have been in favour of the measures that the government is taking on board. However, and it's a big however, she said, what is happening with our plain packaging legislation? Because the effectiveness of these measures is enhanced immeasurably when you take a suite of approaches, when you look at various other tools. And she knows that we have the legislation sitting on the order paper, just awaiting the work program of the government to actually pass this. And we know the impact that it's having in Australia. The Health Select Committee actually visited with some Australian members of their Health Select Committee, and we have heard from them directly that it is making an impact. So I'm urging this government to get that piece of legislation pushed up the order paper, because it will make a difference. The other thing that this young woman said to me was that she is also influenced by the work that is being done currently on smoking in cars. And that will have a direct impact on children and babies in cars that are inhaling secondhand smoke. And my colleague Lewis Wall made the important point, Mr. Chair.
Portal Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Made the important point about influencing adults to influence their children. And I do just want to reiterate that here is one measure that we can take very quickly. It will take some time to bed in, but it's an important factor that we need to ensure that we do that. Mr. Chair, it is a good step. It doesn't go far enough. I do commend the Minister on taking this measure. I wish he was bolder for Pacific people and Pacific smokers, but we do commend the bill to the House.
Chair.